This is Corolla Digital. This is Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No judgment. Man, I get on. Welcome to the best hour in the universe. That's Reasonable Doubt. Mark Garrigus in studio, everybody.
Yeah, and you know what's ironic is I think when I did this last one, I did not have, it was a week ago. I think a week ago today, if Gary can correct him if I'm wrong. But then the next day I had kind of emergency eye surgery. And I remember saying a week ago that I wanted to try to stay in L.A. So be careful what you wish for. The doctor said you can't fly. So now I was trying to get cross country because I've got a sentencing hearing next Monday in New York. So I was going to take the Amtrak. And there's an L.A. to New York Amtrak. And it takes 2 days, 22 hours. So I was supposed to leave at 6 o'clock yesterday.
The Amtrak is
train.
How long?
2 days, 22 hours.
2 days train. I'd round up to 3 days.
3 days, exactly.
So it's a 3-day trip.
Right.
Now, what people don't know with the emergency eye surgery is he detached a retina from giving the stink eye to too many prosecutors. And it actually detached a retina.
Yeah, and then literally, I've psyched myself up. I'm getting on the train. I'm going to spend 3 days on the train. This will be a great adventure. Then I get an alert from Amtrak yesterday that says service disruption. And in the email it says, but we've solved the problem. You know how they solved the problem? Take a bus for 10 hours to Arizona and pick up a train there. And I said, I really want to do the sentencing, but I'm not taking a bus for 10 hours to Arizona to catch a train to go spend 3 days on the train.
How long are you grounded?
He said 30 days.
And it's a pressure thing.
Yeah. Well, he tells the story, Dr. Boyer, who, by the way, if you ever have an eye problem, I highly recommend Dr. Boyer, who's got an office in Pasadena, and he's got an office every 5 blocks. He told me a story about a priest, and apparently this, God, he'd probably get mad at me, but what the heck. The priest apparently was told when he had one of these surgeries after 2 weeks that he could fly. And so the guy goes to Hawaii. Halfway to Hawaii, boom, the eye goes and lost his sight. But being a priest, he never sued.
Yeah. And that
it
was
wasn't
2
Dr.
weeks after the procedure, so
Right.
a full 30 days. See, I'm a horrible patient. I would figure
worst.
after 10 days, I'd go, oh, please. He told me 30. Everyone always, it's like, I look at the same thing. I look at ladders and genie lifts and all kinds of stuff. When it says maximum weight, 600 pounds, I think, oh, that's 1,000 pounds.
Right,
We can
don't you?
We can go up to 1,000. They'll always give you less than or more than that's the way I feel about everything.
Well, on the way over here to the studio, in the car was playing Betty Davis Eyes by Kim Carnes. And I said, I could really do this as Marty Feldman eyes because, the one eye kind of goes in one direction as Marty Feldman's and then you kind of bug eye out, which is something else.
So there's so much going on in your world and the political world. And
boy, they really have intersected. There's a rumor going around. And mind you, the NFL is already trying to monkey around and claiming I leaked stuff and blah, 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 because Wall Street Journal, I think, and the New York Times have reported transcripts of the NFL owners that I have deposed. And it's come out clearly that they've communicated, or at least I shouldn't say clearly. Let me phrase this so Adam and I don't get an OSC Ray contempt. It's been reported that when the NFL leaked their the transcripts, because I think they leaked it to kind of blame Trump, that in the transcripts it's been reported that Trump had called individual owners, told them it was a winning issue for him and that they couldn't do this, they couldn't do that. I can neither confirm nor deny because I'm under a protective order, but then today it's been reported that I've requested a subpoena for the president and the vice president, or a deposition of the two of them, which, let's just talk hypothetically. If you're hypothetically have, as has been reported by the Wall Street Journal, who probably had the deposition leaked by the NFL, if it's been reported that the owners said they had a conversation with President Trump, then you would think that that would be the next thing that you would want to depose the other person on that conversation.
How much more jeopardy does somebody like the president or the vice president, but let's just say the president? We've been involved with these legal matters before. I feel like people lie routinely under oath. I've seen it and heard it with my own ears. When you're the president...
My father used to call divorce court a battle of the perjuries.
Right.
Yeah,
everyone swears in and then let the lying party begin. But if you're the president and you're going to depose him and he's going to lie, he's putting himself in jeopardy because... That's a big deal if you're the president, right?
Correct. And that's, the Rudy Giuliani, who the ex-mayor of New York, ex-AUS, or not AUSA, he was the U.S. attorney for the Southern District, has been doing the rounds. And poor Rudy, he does not look, he looks like a character from Saturday Night Live at this point. But he has said one thing. He's still, people keep saying he's unhinged, he looks crazy, but he has made a pretty good point that he doesn't recommend that the president get under oath for Robert Mueller because a changing recollection or a shifting recollection, which everybody, by the way, has. I mean, the whole idea of the Innocence Project and DNA has proven that the worst kind of recollection or evidence of all is eyewitness identification. And, a first cousin of eyewitness identification is your recollection of anything that happens, because the human brain acts in such ways that you tend to, for whatever prism or bias you have, it tends to kind of inform how you remember something. So if you've got a prosecutor and the prosecutor wants to ask you about something and the prosecutor can't get you on what the target of his investigation is, well, then what's the easiest way to get you? It's for, lying under oath, read Barry Bonds, or for giving a false statement to a FBI agent, 1001 of the United States Code. So any lawyer who's got, both brain cells firing is going to say, I don't want my client under oath, and let alone if you're the president. And if you believe that this is a witch hunt, why would you ever get under oath?
Just recently, the Philadelphia Eagles announced they would not attend the White House, or maybe most of them announced they wouldn't. I think they initially said we wanted to reschedule, but it seemed very last minute, and I think it was sort of received as probably something other than a reschedule. And I think they wanted to reschedule when the president was not in town.
Yeah. So, and I don't even think they were going to go down. The Eagles had all done a line of succession to figure out if Trump is out and if Pence is out, who's next up? Is it Speaker of the House that gets to give us his?
So message sent, and then Trump scrubbed the whole thing for I'm guessing the four guys that wanted to go, which is the long snapper, the holder, the kicker, and the backup long snapper.
They had the uniform guy. They had the trainer.
And the trainer. So then both Golden State Warrior and LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers preemptively announced that whoever wins isn't going there either, which is kind of interesting. And certainly these are very interesting times we're living in when there's a team embroiled in a playoff and they just carve out some time to announce that we don't know who is going to win, but whoever does win shall not be going to the White House. It's an insane moment and snapshot in time we're living in.
It's an incredible point at which we're living. It is, for better or for worse, we're in a reality series. I just shake my head virtually every day. The strange bedfellows that you get. There was this week also. Kim Kardashian had gone to the White House. There's a picture of her standing next to him. She had pitched for, I think her name is it Alice Jones? Alice, a woman who had been apparently sentenced to a long term of imprisonment for a nonviolent drug offense, and he within 5 or 6 days pardoned the woman. And interestingly, the people on the left are betwixt and between. What do they do? Because
Johnson's her last name, by the way. But yes.
Johnson, right? So And I said, it's just fascinating to me, the cross currents that are at work here and how people get tied up in the pretzel logic, the pretzel biases, the things that you can't separate out, or it's very difficult to separate out the fact that the same person can do something that's good and something that you despise, and yet you can't give credit for this and you can't give blame for that.
Well, I wonder, you just wonder with Trump, and you were alluding to it in our last Reasonable Doubt, which is if you can pardon turn of the century heavyweight, bigger than life Jack Jones and diminutive Dinesh D'Souza, then every human being will land somewhere in between those two human beings.
It's exactly right. You've run the gamut. You've run the table, so to speak.
That Jack Johnson and Dinesh D'Souza, physically, spiritually, and from a stature standpoint, they could not be further apart. And so it doesn't matter who you pardon, they will land somewhere between those two. And I wonder if he's just setting the table.
He clearly is. He's clearly setting the table, and now you're hearing the pushback, and this cracks me up because I haven't heard it since this last pardon. The previous one was he was getting slammed for pardoning because it makes him. It's an imperial presidency, and he thinks he's king. No, I mean I have always said the problem with the pardon power is it's not used enough. So for whatever your issues are with Trump, at least he's using the pardon power. It is that and the not guilty are the only two things in the law that are not appealable, that you cannot appeal. It's a not guilty verdict. Prosecutor can't appeal that, and a pardon. They've tried to, but you're not going to get anywhere. You can't appeal that as well.
Well, they all three are fine candidates for that because no one really did anything that certainly would warrant any imprisonment.
Which brings
history.
us, by the way, speaking of legal Zoom.
Love Legal Zoom.
Do you have a couple of things left to do on your to-do list for 2018? I sure do.
Sure.
That's why Legal Zoom is extending their friends and family. Anybody who's a friend or family or a Reasonable Doubt listener, you get that discount to everyone for a limited time. How much off? 10% off? Should we give them 10? 5 or 10? I think we give them 10%
10.
off the things you keep putting off. Save on your LLC, your DBA, your S Corp, and more. Also, this is an important one, save money on your last will or living trust before you go on summer vacation. LegalZoom is not a law firm, but don't worry. Their network of independent attorneys can provide advice for your business, your estate plan, and more. Isn't that right, Gary?
That is right. Accomplish the things you need to get done at LegalZoom.com now and save 10% with LegalZoom's friends and family discount. Just be sure to enter promo code DOUBT in the referral box at checkout. This offer is only available for a limited time, so hurry to LegalZoom.com now and use promo code DOUBT for 10% off. LegalZoom, where life meets legal, LegalZoom.com.
I think you were about to read, and I jumped in, but you can blame it on my eyesight right now.
It's all right. All is forgiven. You're a pro.
Yeah.
All right, so what else in the legal world is going on out
also
there?
In the legal world,
Weinstein chimed in and said, hey, I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah. Wearing the baby blue sweater, which I think Ben Brofman, it was a stroke of genius. Did you like the baby blue sweater?
I didn't even see it. I just heard that being accused of rape is every bit as bad as raping or its own.
No, Ben said, I think Brofman
or not every bit as bad. But
he says rape is reprehensible, and and it's also reprehensible to accuse someone of rape.
Right.
Yeah.
How does somebody then talk about rape over the course of a 10-year period, which I believe.
Look at Ben. Ben. I'm going to tell one story about Ben. Ben represented Puffy in 1999, Brofman. You see him there on the left. And that was Johnny Cochran's last criminal trial. In fact, Puffy did not or wanted Johnny to try it. Johnny had already retired from doing criminal cases. And Ben, as you saw in that picture, always wears a collar pin in his for his tie. And so he stood up. Ben and Johnny Cochran tried that case, the defense. That was the one where J-Lo was charged as well. And
shooting at a recording studio in New York.
Or a nightclub. I don't remember the facts of it.
It was a recording studio.
You'll see. You got a good You got a good handle on these legal issues.
Somebody came into the lobby, and they were at a recording studio, and there was a shooting that took place like in the lobby of the recording studio in Los. There was a club shooting too, but this was a recording studio.
I think the club shooting. Ben also represented Plaxico Burress, and I think that was his own gun, which fell out of his pocket and went off, kind of like that FBI agent who was doing the breakdancing.
Shot himself in the thigh.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, but Plaxico, had worse aim. At least the FBI agent accidentally shot somebody else. But so Ben stood up to introduce himself to the jury. Where was it, Gary? Was it a club?
It appears that the 99 shooting with J-Lo was at a club.
Okay.
What was the recording studio then?
Let me look into it. There have been a lot of recording studio shootings.
Maybe that was.
I have a certain client who wanted me this week to go visit him in the recording studio, and I said I'll pass.
Was that Tupac Shakur who did that one?
There was definitely a Tupac Shakur shooting where he was coming down into the lobby of a.
Oh, maybe that was it.
He was shot in the recording studio, and then he came down, and Notorious B.I.G. was there, and that was sort of what set it all off because he became convinced that Big had set it up.
But do you call him Notorious?
I don't believe so. No.
You call him Notorious B.I.G. or do you call him Biggie?
I mean both.
Or Mr. Biggie.
He's from Orange
Biggie
County.
Smalls.
Yeah, well, so anyway, Ben stands up and he tells the jury after it's sworn in, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ben Brofman. My co-counsel in this case is Johnny Cochran. You can tell the difference because I wear a shirt collar pin and Mr. Cochran does not. And he got a good laugh for it. Yeah. Well, I thought it was kind of cute. I think Ben had won the Gation case before that, which got a lot of local attention in New York, but that kind of vaulted him in. And then
So he's with Weinstein, and Weinstein's accuser is someone he was sort of had a 10-year relationship with. And did you see Cosby's accuser on 2020 or whatever, one of those news shows? It was pretty breathtaking. They ran it last week. She was a basketball player. And, Cosby called her over to his house, and the next thing you know, and the hands on the pants, and then before you know it, there was take these pills and relax. Like, it was really rubber meets the road kind of Cosby when you heard about the stories, but you didn't really hear the firsthand accounts of exactly. And also, I think from your profession, and I know from doing Loveline, when you hear real specifics, you know what I mean, where it's like he reached over, he tried to unsnap my pants, but he couldn't unsnap my pants. And at a certain point, he asked me if I wanted to lay down on something, like real specific stuff that doesn't. You see, when you're lying, you say he reached over and undid my pants.
Right.
You don't say he reached over and undid my pants and couldn't do it. So then I got up and went into the other room. And then I lay down, and then when I woke up, my pants were down. Like it works better than life works. It works like a movie, not like life. And so what I always listen to is the Dateline was what it was on. I always listen to the parts of the stories that are either superfluous or don't seem like they would fit in a movie.
Do you know what's so amazing about that observation? Because when you cross-examine a witness and you test them on those things, that's exactly where I always start intuitively on cross-examination, because if you can't get those details, or if those things evolve, or you didn't remember it when you first told the police, you didn't remember it at the time you were interviewed second or the third time, and all of a sudden you have an epiphany while you're on the stand and you're getting cross-examined, and you were asked about it before. I think those things tell you more about the veracity of the story and the credibility of the accuser than the main thrust.
Yes.
Because people, it's just intuitively. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten into judges who say, move along, this isn't relevant. I said, no, this is precisely what cross-examination should be about.
When you start hearing, so if somebody says, I went to his house and he raped me, and the accuser says, I've never seen this woman before, or I saw her at a bar, but she never came to my house. When she then tells her story and says, I knocked on the door, he let me into his home, I walked into the home, I remember moments later excused myself and going back to my car because I remember I'd left my phone in my car on the charger. I then re-entered the home with my phone. We sat down, he poured me a drink. I would be like, if you're making this story up out of whole cloth, you leave out the part where you went back to your car because you forgot your phone in your car and then came back again, because it has nothing to do with him drugging you and raping you. You just walk in, you sit down, he pours you a drink, you start talking shop. Next thing you know, he's on top of you. That's the story. The part where you just went back to your car, that's just a specific recollection that put you there.
Right. And you can test that. And if you test it and it holds up, that to me has more credibility than if you don't. If you don't remember, I mean, I understand repression and memory lapses and everything else, but I could not agree more that when it comes to telling a story and testing the veracity of the story, those are the details that make all the sense in the world.
Yeah, the little stuff that's neither here nor there, and it doesn't do anything with the narrative or push the story along, and
no, and it doesn't make you right. When you say it doesn't do anything to the narrative, it doesn't do anything to enhance your credibility.
If you were making this into a movie, you would cut that part off.
Correct.
You would leave it on the editing room floor because it has nothing to do with the story and the drive of the plot.
In fact, a lot of times, I think in novels, I read a lot of novels and fiction because it's kind of a getaway for the brain. A lot of times I like the fact that that's how novelists and fiction writers set the table, so to speak, because that kind of draws you in. It gives you a texture, it gives you a layer so that you understand that that's really how life unfolds. That's really, everything is not just, we used to laugh, police work is not 1 Adam 12, or it's constant action, boom, 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 boom. And that, unfortunately, I think tends to be how the millennial generation, which is more raised on this kind of instant gratification, understands life to be, and life really is not that way.
I'm going to do a spot. You tell me.
What are you going to do a spot on?
I'll tell you about TheraWorks Relief with an X, and you tell me how your case in Mesa is going. I'm very interested in that. If you're one of the millions who suffer from muscle cramps in your legs, feet, relief is finally in sight. TheraWorks Relief, topical foam that's clinically proven to relieve muscle cramps fast. With daily use, TheraWorks Relief even prevents muscle cramps before they start. You don't even need a prescription, and just minutes to apply.
Used to be a prescription, didn't it?
I don't know if TheraWorks did, but anything that works
used to be a prescription, right?
Right. Now this does work, and you don't need the prescription. Dr. Drew loves this stuff. He stands by it, and he's a snob.
Yeah, he is. And he's now doing commercials. So
TheraWorks Relief, and you can get it today at CVS, Rite Aid, Walgreens, pharmacies, or at TheraWorks with an X, relief.com. Talk to your pharmacist about TheraWorks Relief and experience the relief from muscle cramps for yourself. So
let me set up on Mesa. Mesa this week, it's ironic. There was, for those who don't remember, Daniel Shaver, who was murdered by the cops. Actually, I don't think I can say murdered because Brailsford, who shot and killed him, assassinated him, was acquitted. They filed, Mesa PD and the lawyers, for the guy that you have attributed most of the blame of this to, the sergeant or whatever his lieutenant, Langley. They filed motions to dismiss. And interestingly, this week, on the same day, and Gary, this is a good setup, on the same day the judge ruled, and Adam, it was almost as if you had ghostwritten parts of the opinion, because he denied the motion to dismiss in large part and had reserved some of his strongest language for the lieutenant or the sergeant, who is the one who fled to the Philippines, for his actions, his ridiculous kind of nature in that, as having potentially caused the whole thing in the first place. He laid it out. The judge laid it out and denied the motion to dismiss on almost all of the counts.
Well, anyone who sees the video, and I don't want to see it, but if you do, you'll see the body cam kind of looking down the barrel of the gun, and you'll hear this voice that is escalating the situation, is completely out of control. It's essentially like some guy's trying to cut a diamond and someone is next to him screaming like Arlie Ermy in their ear, and then we're going to blame the guy for screwing up the diamond cut.
Yeah.
But there's a guy standing next to you screaming. Now, when you watch it, the first time you watch it, you'll just connect the voice with the person who's holding the gun.
Right, and
because
you assume it, right.
Your brain just connects it. And you go, Jesus Christ, this guy's out of control. Later on, when you find out that that was the commanding officer who was standing there and the guy who was holding the gun and ultimately squeezing the trigger was one of his deputies, you become outraged because the voice of authority is the one that is completely unprofessional and escalating the situation. I don't know that you could escalate it more than what this guy was doing.
I don't think you could.
Yelling, you're going to get shot. You're not going to get out of here alive. We're going to shoot you. Don't you? I mean, he is so culpable. And if I was in that court arguing, we were just in here. Who the hell was our last guest here? She just wrote a book on Charles Manson, right?
Right.
Okay. Charles Manson got the death penalty and never set foot in the LaBianca house or the Tate house.
Right.
He got the death penalty. Yeah, her name was Lise Wheel.
Lise Wheel was here?
You just missed Lise Wheel.
I can't believe
Lise Wheel
Gary,
was just here.
Kept her, you couldn't
Lise
kept her.
Wheel. She got a few ducats out of O'Reilly. You want to cut her a check too? Be quiet.
Well, no. Do you know why? Do you know her background?
Former prosecutor.
Right. Do you know who she was married to, Gary?
No.
Mickey Sherman? Wasn't she married to Mickey Sherman? Wasn't Mickey Sherman the lawyer for Michael Skakel, who was found ineffective? I like Mickey.
Skakel.
Yeah, am I right?
Kennedy.
Yes.
The Kennedy.
Yes.
You are
Yes.
right.
Yeah, I
I
can't
know.
believe
I knew
you
you
had
guys-
a whole hour to talk. I could have talked to her for about an hour for that because Mickey
Ships
got
in the night.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So Charles Manson gets the death penalty, and he never picks up a knife.
Right.
Because-
and I don't even know I don't remember the facts, but I remember the facts, but not in such great detail. I don't even think he was on property or in the neighborhood.
No, he was not there. He was not there for Tate. LaBianca, they were talking that maybe he'd gone into the house days before and crashed out, whatever, scouted out. But he was not present for either one, and he got the death penalty because the argument was without him, this wouldn't have happened.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to make the same argument with the Mesa police commander who was standing there and saying he was there. Right. Number one, Manson wasn't there, but he was there, and without him, this wouldn't have happened.
I'm going to take it one step further. Not only was he there and was he a catalyst, for lack of a better term, in legal parlance, we talk about causation. But not only that, but in the trial itself, in the criminal trial itself, he justified everything he did. Their use of force expert justified everything they did.
Well, he's not an expert then.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what the setup is. I think the problem with this is what produces, and the fact that there was no accountability is what produced a tape which came out. Gary, when did it come out? Yesterday?
Let me check.
Okay, so they file some charges or write up some kid criminally, and unbeknownst to the Mesa PD, there is a hallway cam. Not a body cam, but a hallway cam. So before, with Shaver, they didn't want to release the body cam because they knew people would be outraged. Here, they didn't know that there was, one of those little kind of eyes
cams,
in the sky.
nanny cams. Where was the facility?
That's a good question, Gary.
I believe it was in the city of Mesa. It was an apartment complex, and they're on the third floor, so they're kind of right in an exterior hallway
by an elevator.
Yeah, it appears that the the bird's eye view cam that you're talking about came out yesterday, and the body cam footage was finally released today. I've seen at least 2 different officers' body cam footage.
Yeah, well, the body cam they had to release today because now that there was the other, they've got no other way to go. At least in Shaver, there wasn't an independent. It was only the body cam. They did everything possible, and they were successful to not release that until after they got the acquittal.
I was thinking about this last night when I was taking the dog for a walk. If Shaver was an African American man, this whole goddamn country would be on fire, because that was the most brutal execution of a citizen I've ever seen in my life. And there's been bad, but when you watch this tape, you can't do worse. You might be able to tie, but you cannot do worse.
I've been doing this. My anniversary of practicing law was last Sunday, 35 years. I've been doing it 35 years. The last 15 or 20, probably predominantly civil rights work. And I cannot remember a worse tape having been seen. I've had nightmares about it, literally. And I'll go to my grave hugging Lainey in that courtroom as she was convulsing when she watched it. Yeah, the wife. I mean, it's just the widow. It's just awful. Gary, do you have this tape? I don't know that Adam's seen this.
I can play you the bird's eye view portion of it. It does not have any audio. Frankly, the body cam footage, in my opinion, makes the cops look better. Because
they can't look any worse.
Yeah, so this is more Mesa guys telling a guy, looks like a young black man.
Yeah, they're approaching him. He's
standing by an elevator.
The background of the crime is that the gentleman who you can see in the right-hand side of this frame, and we'll post pictures of this at reasonable.podcast.com, or you can find the video on YouTube. The gentleman sitting down was apparently friend of the gentleman who was standing by the elevator. The 2 men were going back to an ex-girlfriend's apartment who lives in this apartment complex to get some of the stuff that the guy who's sitting down left. The woman,
so this guy standing up, I didn't know that part.
Right.
He's just along to help a buddy.
Simply a friend along for the ride. Yeah. The girlfriend apparently got scared, produced a weapon, and called the cops. So the cops were showing up responding to her call. So they approached this gentleman, and in the body cam footage, you can hear them telling him to sit down, and he is being somewhat defiant, but he is not moving or being aggressive or putting his hands in any direction. They just finally, after the second or third time, and Kaylin, you can roll it, after the second or third time right here, they kind of say, well, if you don't sit down, we're going to sit you down. And he doesn't really move.
He's kind of leaning against the wall, looking at his phone, and they all approach him. And there's a way to do it. I guess you could pull his feet out and his butt would hit the floor, but instead they start throwing punches.
The elbow here at the end after he's starting to go down is the most brutal shot to me.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of bad ones.
That's real MMA stuff.
Yeah, that looks like someone who trains MMA.
Right. And obviously there's no reason to put the elbow. Now, of course, minus the camera, all the cops would get on the same page and say, he lunged at me. He made a move for my gun. I felt threatened. By the way, I don't know how you argue away. I felt threatened. You know, hummingbird land on your dick. You could feel threatened.
Where did you come up with that?
Never said it before in my life.
The Mesa police chief came out and made a statement that you would love, where he to camera goes, as a result of this incident, we're going to change our policy. We will no longer strike citizens to the head with our fists or elbows unless they are being aggressive. Well, thank you.
So before this, you had a policy of when they're being docile, you're allowed to throw elbows at their orbital sockets.
That's what I'm saying.
To say that, I'm going to encourage it once again. If we've got a civil rights division at the Department of Justice, and if they have not just come in and taken over that police department, then they might as well just disband the Civil Rights Division. There's no reason in the world, and you can say it's Trump's DOJ, or Trump actually hates this DOJ, so you can't blame him. I mean, the DOJ is there. What is the point of a Civil Rights Division if you can have Daniel Shaver and this all within a span of time in the same police department? Mind you, this is the same...
The size of Mayberry.
Yeah. And it's the same police department. Hold on, I'm going to pause. You know why? My favorite. By the way, I want to give these guys a shout out. These people, because I think they've got the best social media game of any of our sponsors in a lot of ways. It's Omaha Steaks. Kick off the grilling season, And the timing is good for Father's Day. Kick off the grilling season by gifting an Omaha Steaks Father's Day package to your dad. Or do it to me. Tenny, Jake, you listening? Unless your dad is my dad. Limited time offer for Father's Day. Get this, just 78% off. And go to Omaha, for those of you who can't spell it, OMAHA, steaks.com. Type doubt in the search bar. Listen to this for the Father's Day package. It includes 2 fillets, 2 top sirloins, 4 chicken fried steaks, 2 boneless pork chops, 4 all-beef burgers, 4 gourmet jumbo franks, 12 ounces, not just 1.2, not 2, 12 ounces of all-beef meatballs, plus 1 pound of steak fries. Can you imagine how much that is? 4 caramel apple tartlets, 1 Omaha Steaks seasoning packets, 4 bonus burgers for free. All of this, guess how much? Under $50.
Mark was going to take it all on the train and tell the whole
Exactly. I was
going
to grill. $49.99. That's $49.99 when you go to omahasteaks.com and type doubt in the search bar. Unbelievably good deal.
So the thing that drives me nuts about the DOJ, and I've said it before, I don't like them running like a popularity contest. You know, they turn on CNN, they see there's problems in Ferguson. Let's go out there and investigate this. You know, they see what's going on with Mesa. I saw MSNBC. Rachel Maddow hasn't said shit. So anyway, forget about that. We got to wait till what? Anderson Cooper and Rachel Maddow point you in the right direction? That's how the Department of Justice works?
I don't understand. They've got what I think is if you've got a violation of civil rights, if you're going to talk, and I'll harken back to those of us who were in L.A. who lived through it, the Rodney King case, where the cops were acquitted in the state court and then they prosecuted them in the federal court. If you're going to use that model, how could you not do it in the Daniel Shaver case, number one? Number two, how could you now not say, we're going to just go in and take over this Mesa Police Department? To Gary's point, how does the chief wake up and say, yeah, we're not going to just randomly hit people in the face anymore unless they're lunging at it. So, ergo, it was okay before, but now we've got a new policy.
I really feel like as far as technology goes and cops go and whatever, the same relationship with Roseanne and the tweets and the cops and the cameras, it's like a full generation has to take place of you can't just be business as usual. Right. Where people would send emails and not know that there's a time and date stamp and that they live forever. And they go, listen, I'm going to cheat. When I'm done cheating on my wife, I'm going to cheat on my taxes. Now, here's an email. Yeah. And then you go, wait a minute. There's a point because it's all brand new. Cops have been doing whatever they wanted to do for as long as they wanted to do it. And the Shaver story or the guy standing in the elevator hall story would just be the same. It'd be he was on it, he made a move, he reached for his waistband, We thought he had a gun, clean kill. This guy. He made a move for us, he threatened us, he lunged at me, he reached for my gun, we threw an elbow at him to subdue him. And then it would just go away. They have not evolved enough to realize there are cameras now. They're still doing business like it's the 1950s.
And the thing, it's obvious to me at least, nobody learned a thing from the Shaver trial. Why do I say that? Well, I was in that courtroom. All the rank and file cops would come in, intimidate the jurors, sit in the courtroom, wear their Mesa PD polo shirts, their black polo shirts, and they were all rooting for the guy who was charged with murder, the Brailsford. They all thought Langley was well within his rights. They hired and paid for the defense, which is their right. Great. But the fact remains, they saw that it was with impunity you could execute somebody. You just saw in that, how many cops did you see in there?
There was at least they're big dudes, too.
Big dudes. Didn't think a thing about it. Nobody dimed out anybody else. You know why? Because they know you don't dime out somebody else. You close ranks, just like they did with Brailsford. They had Brailsford dad come in who was a lawyer, ex-cop himself in the same department. He orchestrates the statements. They then all get together. They know that that's how they're going to get away with it when everybody's got the same recollection. Little did they know that there was a video.
I have a question for you. It's a little sociological, but I'm sort of curious. It's been on my mind. And I turn to you for answers, legal and beyond.
Well, I was a sociology and anthropology major, so I'm going to offer you.
I knew there was wisdom.
Right.
Okay.
Either that or, as my father used to say, that and a quarter will get you a cup of coffee at McDonald's.
I've been watching earlier in the week. I was in New York for about 23 hours, and I was hearing the story, and then I saw it again. Actually, it's kind of interesting because I was listening to Bill Clinton,
right,
on a radio show. And the guy was playing snippets of it, and he said, a CNN reporter, but a kind of tough CNN reporter who wasn't in the Democrats' hip pocket, was asking some kind of tough questions. And he said, did you apologize personally to Lewinsky? And he said, I apologize to everyone. And he said, did you apologize to her specifically? And he said, I apologize to the family and my family and to America. And he kept saying, did you apologize to her? And he said, well, yeah, no, we did it all. And it was now we have heard now. So here's the thing. I heard it that day. That was Tuesday morning when I was in New York.
Right.
And I then went into ABC to do Celebrity Match Game and with
Alec Baldwin.
With Alec Baldwin.
Right.
And
by the way, where were you sitting?
I sit.
Did you sit right at the right hand of God at the number one pole position?
I sit in the number one seat every time I do it.
I love it.
Which I'm proud of, which is the upper deck closest to him, because that's the one he walks over to talk to. The thing that's actually funny is Baldwin wants me there to talk to me all the time. He just he's going to get paid and he wants his comedy.
Because Alec is known as a comic left wing, wouldn't you say? Progressive, right?
Yes.
But the two of you get along famously, do you not?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
No, he requests that I come on the show because he knows it's easier for him to get paid a shitload of money if I'm standing
You're there doing the heavy lifting.
Cracking wise. So much so, which is kind of funny, it'll happen once every couple. I did 3 shows, which is 6 games. But at some point in the whatever round, if you do match with the person on the first round, you and the chick in seat 4, then
who was by the way? I know it's
Cheryl Hines or whoever.
Good.
When then the thing that's funny is when you go to round 2, you two can't chime in because you've already matched with the person. So round 2 is just the 4 people or the one person or everyone. Whoever didn't match with them is left. But every once in a while, I would match with the person, and I'm sitting in the number 1 seat, and now only the people can guess who didn't match in the first round. But instinctively, and I'm sort of flattered by this, when he goes, all right, celebrities, let's get those answers locked in, he'll always walk over to me and lean up against the thing like, what are you thinking? And the producers will go to him. He's not thinking anything. He's not go around. Go to talk to somebody else. He's not playing this round. He got it right the last round. So I'm sitting in my dressing room, and James Baby Doll Dixon, my agent, comes into the room, and we're talking, and I don't know how it came up, but he said, yeah, we're hanging out here, and I'll bring you in. You go talk to Baldwin or something. I was telling him. But later on, we're going to go over to Colbert, who he represents,
right?
Because Clinton's coming on. Ooh. And I said, how's that going to work? And he said, oh, Colbert, he'll stick it to him a little bit. And I said, I bet he'll suck up to him. And he said, no, he'll ask the questions. And I think we have a clip of that.
Oh, I'd love to see that. Because I really want to comment on this. I want to talk about this. Because first of all, isn't Clinton at this point the same age as Trump? Aren't they both 71?
They're both up there. We'll find a clip.
We'll find that clip because
But I have a sociological question to ask you as well. Well, Gary will find the clip first.
There it is.
Yeah.
I'm told this might be a little long.
It's all right.
That's okay. I don't mind. I want to see it.
When I got home last night, on the CNN, they had a lower third banner that said something about William Clinton's tone-deaf response to the question from the Today Show. My question is, would you like a do-over on that answer? Do you understand why some people thought that was a tone-deaf response to his questions about the Me Too movement and how you might reflect on your behavior 20 years ago and how that reflection may change based on what you've learned through the Me Too movement?
Yeah, when I saw the interview, I thought that because they had to, distill it. And it looked like I was saying I didn't apologize and I had no intention to. And I was mad at me.
Mm-hmm. Well, you said in the interview that you did apologize. You said you apologized in the interview.
Did, and they showed a film clip finally. But here's what I want to say. It wasn't my finest hour, but the important thing is that was a very painful thing that happened 20 years ago, and I apologize to my family, to Monica Lewinsky and her family, to the American people. I meant it then, I meant it now. I've had to live with the consequences every day since. And I still believe this Me Too movement is long overdue, necessary, and should be supported. And we should all... And I'd like to think that we're all getting better as we go along.
No, you cut off the part where Colbert asked all the hard questions. So.
Wait, that was not exactly a searing...
I believe Dylan.
This is where you go like
this.
This is where you go
Colbert,
like
this was
started...
apparently the clip that was prepped for ACS.
All right, well, tell him not to put so much head on it and give me the part where Colbert, if you play it for another 30 seconds, now you have to find it online. He's saying to him, what you did to that woman was reprehensible. Colbert gets into it with him.
We're pulling it up now.
But can somebody answer my question?
Somebody check Dylan's work, please. When he pulls the clips drive me nuts. Because you know what I don't like? It's too much at the front we don't need. And then I know, and then you cut off. It's like I'm telling a story, and then all of a sudden you say, yeah, forget about that. I'm not going to get to the end. Well, if you watch the clip, Colbert does not sit there and accept his, sort of humble response. He says that's the worst thing you can do to a young man. Like, you have committed the most reprehensible abuse of power. He says this is the worst example of abuse of power I've ever seen.
Well, and the interesting thing is that the normal response, both by him and by Trump, is the denial. I mean, that was out of the gate, both denied. For a variety of reasons, Clinton had to backtrack. He ended up getting disbarred and obviously impeached, or they brought charges of impeachment, but he was acquitted in the Senate. And there really was kind of a conflict amongst the left at the time. I mean, I lived it in real time with McDougal. I mean, it was an astonishing time to live through, and that's why you and I have talked about this ad nauseum now, because it's 20 years later. I mean, I had the front row seat trying that case in Little Rock 20 years ago, and then to see what's going on now, it's just an amazing, amazing thing to watch.
Well, I still have my sociological
question, which I
chambered.
Yeah.
I'm giving Gary a little time to find it. I'm mainly just pissed that he cut off the last 20 seconds of that.
If you want just audio, I think I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead.
We'll take audio. This is kind of an audio podcast.
Right? So I left a little bit of what we already heard on there just to establish some context. Here we go.
And I'd like to think that we're all getting better as we go along.
Here's the other thing. I've spent a year now with President Clinton, and I went in liking him. Mm-hmm. But in that year, I found he's just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful human being. And he spent his whole life trying to do good things for this country. And since he's been out of the presidency with the foundation, he's done incredible things for all around the world.
Well, I would agree. I would agree with you. If I could, I would think some of the reason why people saw that interview and thought that it was tone deaf or whatever word they wanted to use is that you seem surprised that that question would come up. That there's somehow that this had all been adjudicated in the past and there's no reason to talk about it again, when it seems like the spirit of the Me Too movement is that it doesn't matter how long ago it happened. Examples of men who were not held accountable for their behavior, especially men in power, with younger women or people who worked for them, is worthy of being re-adjudicating or adjudicating for the first time, no matter how long ago it happened. And so it seemed tone deaf to me because you seemed offended to be asked about this thing when, in all due respect, sir, your behavior was the most famous example of a powerful man sexually misbehaving in the workplace of my lifetime. And so it doesn't seem surprising that the question.
Why are we cutting that part off of the clip, Dylan? You just had Colbert tell the president, you, sir, in my lifetime, this is the most blatant example of abuse ever.
In the workplace.
In the workplace. All right, that seems like, we can tighten it up, but that shouldn't hit the edit room floor, Dylan. And Chris Loxamana, please monitor Dylan when he makes such bad decisions. See, I see this part on the news, and I go, oh, go get that clip. I never think in a million years that part won't be included in our clip. If you want to tighten it up, you can tighten it up, but that part shouldn't be deleted, the part where Colbert makes an incredible statement. And Colbert's a left-leaning guy. When he looks at Clinton and says that to his face, it's a pretty big audible moment, yes?
Well,
okay. It's my fault for not saying it, except for it's your fault for not hearing it and going, we should keep that part in the thing, because that's by far the most poignant part of that clip. Now,
okay,
so Chris will fix that.
Right.
What I want to say is,
okay.
I'm thinking about Letterman's the toast of the town, right?
Right.
Guess who else bangs some interns?
Right.
Letterman.
Right.
Letterman does not get sucked into this Me Too thing, even though one could argue that was a fairly large-scale abuse of power, having sex on the job site with your intern or your assistant multiple times. So I started thinking about it. Now, I know he's beloved, and I know he's a darling of those people who bring such charges. But, and I get, Cosby told hey, black people, speak English and pull your pants up. Now he got a target on his back. Now he's going away. But Clinton is a darling as well. There have been many other, Morgan Freeman or whoever, Al Franken. There have been many darlings, and the left is eating itself. This whole movement is eating itself.
Right, it's a cannibalization. We're watching. Right. Morgan Freeman is beyond.
I don't even know what that was. He was making a joke.
Because he made also he gave a glance. He gave a glance.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was trying to figure out the Letterman math.
Mm-hmm.
What happened with Letterman is Letterman had sex with some underlings, maybe two, and should easily get caught up in this Me Too movement and sucked into it, much like everyone else has been. But his circumstances were the reason it came out is because he was going to be blackmailed.
Right.
And then when he was going to be blackmailed by the then boyfriend of the person who he had sex with, who read it in the diary, all of a sudden Letterman became the victim of a blackmail case. So now the victimizer became the victim, and even though he had sex with a couple underlings, his name doesn't come up because of the way this. So the way it came out. If it just had come out the way everything comes out, which is, he had sex at dalliance with a gal or two who was an underling who worked for him, and then 20 years later she woke up and decided to go lawyer up and talk about it, then he would probably get sucked into this whole thing as well. His name is not uttered in this sentence, and I believe it's because everyone remembers it as, oh, they tried to blackmail that guy. He essentially was a victim.
Which is when I tell, or when I have cases that are high profile, I always counsel the client and the client's posse. If you don't get out there in the first cycle and frame the story, you're always going to be backpedaling or trying to play catch up, because unfortunately that becomes the narrative, the first thing out of the box.
Right. So it's very interesting that in all the abuse of power stories, and by the way, like I said, whether it's Morgan Freeman or Al Franken, we don't need a whole lot to build a. We can make soup out of anything.
Right. I was just going to say Morgan Freeman. Freeman to me.
Letterman's name has not come up.
Not once.
And again, putting on your sociological hat, I believe it's because of the victim of the attempt of blackmail, which turned the tables on the victimizer and turned it into a victim situation. And it's now been lost to the sort of dustbin of history.
I think that's true, but I think that also, there is, I don't know, and maybe this doesn't answer your question. In fact, it probably doesn't as I think about it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to buy you some time.
Okay. Because
what Letterman did is every bit is reprehensible. It's not quite Clinton, but it's pretty close in the if we're looking for abuse of power for sort of sexual gain, if that's what we're looking for, then and what Bill Clinton did was a 10, and what Al Franken did was a 1.5.
If that,
we'll call it a 1.
Right.
Letterman is much closer to an 8.
Well,
don't answer.
Okay.
Or and tell me things. Correct me.
No,
tell me things I don't know. But just in the general yardstick of measuring a power abuse, you tell me, and the name doesn't come up. So I'm just curious what you think, why that is motivated. Now he is a darling, and he is a hero, and I get that part. But I think the victimization of a plot to blackmail may have something to do with it. I'll let you sit and think for a second. I'll tell you guys about ZipRecruiter. Hiring used to be hard. Now it's easy. You just have to go to one place to get it done. ZipRecruiter.com/doubt is where you go. ZipRecruiter scans thousands of resumes, identifies people with the right experience, and invites them to apply to your job. 80% of employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, 80%. Wow. Day number 1. With results like that, no wonder ZipRecruiter is the highest quality, highest rated hiring site in America. And right now, our listeners can try ZipRecruiter.
What do we get?
You can try it for free.
No way.
At this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/doubt. Try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/DOUBT. ZipRecruiter.com/doubt. The smartest way to hire. All right. Can you riddle me that?
No, because we're gonna let it be a cliffhanger till next week.
Okay.
I got a whole. This could be an episode because I've got a whole theory, and we'll start next week with the political prism because I think that plays a huge part in it. And it's interesting when you set up Al Franken, politician at the time, as opposed to if it had just been Al Franken, the comedian, and then Bill Clinton. So I think that there's a political component, but we're out of time because it's the best hour in the universe. And what
anything to my victim?
Oh yeah,
being a victim of blackmail.
Absolutely, it's a jujitsu, but this is an hour's discussion.
All right. Well, we'll pencil it in, and we'll do it. I'll tell you guys, please go to podcast1.com and click on the survey banner and answer a few questions. These guys keep the lights on around here.
Boy, they sure do. Do we get anything if they click on it?
They get a little something called good juju and satisfaction.
Exactly.
You can't put a price tag on satisfaction. But if there was a billable hour for satisfaction,
this would be it.
would figure it out. Podcast1.com. Click on the survey banner. And Portland, is that tonight? Yeah, tonight. Portland, Aladdin Theater. Few tickets left for the second show. First show sold out.
Wow.
Few for the second. Come say hi. We'll do
How
the
many
show
hours
and hang
of
out.
that? How many hours is that for you?
3 hours of stand up,
Wow.
probably, but I'll be there a little longer than that.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
impressive.
It's a calorie suck.
Yeah,
Don't
I was
get
going
me
to say
wrong.
that's incredible.
What do you got? Oh, by the way, go to Chassis and check out Uppity, please. You can pre-order it at Chassis, and it'll arrive in July. It just helps. Mark, what do you got?
I've got some great stuff. Capri, Southampton, this weekend is spectacular. Get on over there. The Arreo, the restaurant, Capri, the hotel, the V Palm Springs. Gary, you going to go down this weekend?
I
What
would
do you
love
think?
to.
Yeah, V Palm Springs, Casa Tropicana in San Clemente, Engine Company 28 downtown LA, 10E downtown, and Prova Pizza in Grand Central Station coming soon to Times Square.
So until next time, Adam Kroll for Mark Garriga saying mahalo.
Thanks for listening to Reasonable Doubt. Tune in next Saturday for an all-new episode. This is Corolla Digital.